If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast. This episode, our back-to-school special, Covidiots and your kids. This week, schools are opening all over the country, and as America continues not to learn the lesson regarding the coronavirus, the Delta variant is proving to be more dangerous than anyone realized, as the CDC has recommended the return of wearing masks indoors, even if you've been fully vaccinated.
The physical properties of the virus, as best we know, haven't changed. The reason why this Delta strain is more transmissible is because there's just more of it. You develop more virus early in the course of your infection. You develop high viral titers very quickly. So that means if you want to derive protection, if you as an individual want to protect yourself from this virus, mask quality does matter. And wearing a higher quality N95 or KN95 mask is going to afford you more protection. In the setting of a more transmissible strain, you need to be more mindful of the quality of the mask that you're wearing.
The reality is we are dealing with a much different strain of this virus than we were even earlier in the spring, back in May, when the masking guidance was provided by the CDC at that time. That is their job. Their job is to look at evolving information, evolving data, an evolving historic pandemic, and provide guidance to the American public.
There's ample supply right now. In the beginning of this epidemic, we didn't have enough N95 masks. Now we do. People can go out and get them, especially if they're more vulnerable.
The CDC also notes that even the fully vaccinated can spread the virus, but the majority of new infections are coming from those who haven't been vaccinated at all. One of the major reasons this country simply can't get a handle on this is because of the deliberate misinformation campaign being waged by politicians and right-wing media outlets.
If vaccines work, why are vaccinated people still banned from living normal lives? Honestly, what's the answer to that? It doesn't make any sense at all. If the vaccine is effective, there is no reason for people who have received the vaccine to wear masks or avoid physical contact. So maybe it doesn't work, and they're simply not telling you that.
Fox host Tucker Carlson is one of many in the right-wing media casting doubt on life-saving COVID vaccines, even as unvaccinated Americans continue to drive up COVID case numbers. Let's talk about this now with former Fox News chief political correspondent Carl Cameron. He is now the co-founder of Front Page Live. And I wonder, I think I know the answer, but I want to know from you, why are hosts like Tucker Carlson doing this?
It's about ratings.
Just money.
And ratings ultimately become revenue. And that's the name of the game. Whoever gets the most clicks on social media makes the most money, gets the most fame, gets the most attention. And that type of activity is not journalism. It's not news. It's gaslighting. It's propaganda. I mean, just last week, new infections went up 70%. And according to NIH, which oversees the CDC, it is absolutely 99.5% of those infections are people who haven't gotten vaccinated. I mean, come on. Anybody who disputes that sort of stuff is putting people's lives at risk and potentially killing them.
No question about it. And we see this red state, blue state divide in vaccinations. So you say it's about a business model. Isn't killing your own supporters a bad business model?
Absolutely. It makes no sense whatsoever. This is literally the metaphor of the lemmings running to their own slaughter. People who are listening to that sort of stuff instead of the science, which goes way, way back, we would not be the world we are today if it weren't for penicillin. These types of things are real, and to suggest that they're not, particularly if you have no education in science and medicine, it is just plain lying to the American people and putting them at risk of death. This is wrong for journalists to be doing this, or people who call them that, whether it's Fox or One America Network or Newsmax. These are all cable channels that are perpetuating lies. And It has to be stopped. In fact, I've been working hard. We've got a coalition going on now called Persuasion US with a number of organizations, institutions, activists across the country. It's an incredibly diverse group. And for Republicans of goodwill who understand that what's happening to the Republican Party and the country as a consequence of what Trump and the far right did is really, really dangerous. And it's time for the left. Democrats need to start fighting the way Republicans do. There's no such thing as a one-year presidential race. It's all 4 years. It's 24/7 on the Republican side, raising money, making up stories, trying to denigrate half of the country who are on the left-hand side of it. And that includes those people of color in many cases. And it has to stop.
A lot of these of what I call Covidiots are trying to frame it as a constitutional issue. They say that being forced to wear a mask violates their rights and their freedoms.
Here's what a constitutional scholar had to say. So the question is, would a limit on your expressive freedoms not to wear a mask, is that reasonable during a pandemic during which a government is trying to control the communicable spread of a deadly disease? He says those limits are considered reasonable, and though the matter could be brought before a court of law, it would be almost impossible to be used to overturn any rules or regulations that have been put in place to protect the greater population. Not that they couldn't make the challenge, but the prospect of a court of law looking at the current public health emergency in which sometimes there are more than a dozen deaths in a day, in which there are thousands and thousands of infected persons, and say that the health measures was an unconstitutional infringement on somebody's liberty not to wear a mask, said the scholar. Most importantly, the wearing of masks has become a catalyst for political conflict, an arena where scientific evidence is often viewed through a partisan lens. Look, stateside, we've had our issues with anti-maskers not only claiming this, but the ADA printing on their website, COVID-19 alert, fraudulent face mask flyers. The anti-maskers are fabricating their own movement through curating these fake cards, which have appeared on various social mediums. Basically, they are fulfilling people's false needs into something that does not exist.
They'll also concoct some of the most ridiculous reasons for not wearing them.
I feel like Batman, but like my utility belt is just filled up with hopefully facts, and all of those, like everybody is immune to those now.
You're refusing to serve me, is that correct? On this day?
Here we go again.
Absolutely shocking. Wow.
Where this Covidiot complains about not getting service.
If you're wondering where they stand, no mask exemptions, no nothing. Go on Amazon. Wow. Absolutely a shock.
Because he chose on his own volition to enter a private business.
And I should have filmed the whole thing. My God, I was yelling. I was explaining them for like a good 10 minutes there. Wow. Shocking.
And the business chose to protect themselves in the middle of a pandemic from a schmuck like this instead of giving in.
I'm being refused service in this shop where I spent thousands of dollars because I'm not wearing a mask. This is discrimination. I will be filing under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and every single person here is a witness.
He claims discrimination, a hilariously false rebuttal.
I will be filing under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. You will be taken to court, and everybody on the internet will know on this beautiful day what this shop is about, that I warned you of your legal rights, that I explained to you that you had to serve every member of the public in our charter, and you refused. You refused, and you threatened to call the police. That's what just happened.
Honestly shocked they haven't arrived yet.
It's amazing. What's amazing is the level of brainwashing that the vast majority of the public are under. Walking around in fear because you think somebody you speak to or hug can get you sick. Do you have any idea the level of propaganda you have to be afraid of? Wow, it's kind of cool to realize to meet somebody who lives in love and is not afraid to hug other people, to love other people, that doesn't watch the TV because he doesn't like the propaganda. Wow.
After not hearing out an employee, this is the response. I'll give you a hint. He's projecting.
And when people see this and understand no one's going to shop here. When people wake up to what you guys are about, nobody's going to shop here. And I came here because I don't want to spend my money on Amazon, because I like local businesses, because I love my country, and I love people who spend money at real shops. That's why I came in here, guys. And you turned me away, and now you want me to go on Amazon.com when I wanted to support a local business. Shame on every single one of you.
Yes. Wow, indeed. So a COVID-denying anti-masker goes on a rant to store employees just trying to operate their business safely and rails against the propaganda people see.
Despite the downward trend, health officials still remain worried about dangerous new variants. They include the strains that were first found in the UK, South Africa, and Brazil. More than 1,200 cases involving variants have been confirmed here in the U.S.
Because look, man, stateside people are dying. They are not faking death. My guy, they are dying.
There is no evidence that I can see that a pandemic exists.
This is the energy he brought into the store. He's showing himself without even noticing it.
Congratulations for following the narrative and trusting the news and not questioning anything. You're all doing a great job complying with the narrative. There is definitely not a psychological operation happening when you're convinced of a reality that's based on fear that has nothing to do with what's actually happening. You shut the you shut the Hey, get the out of here. You're insane, bro. Get the out of here. Get the out of here. Get the out of here. You're insane, bro. You're trying to wake people up because you've been psyoped. We love you people, but you've been psychologically, you've literally been psyoped. Ow. Okay, are you happy now?
And of course, we all see it. The fact is, misinformation is killing people left and right. When it comes to COVID-19, the pandemic has come to be defined by a tsunami of persistent misinformation to the public on everything from the utility of masks and the efficacy of school closures to the wisdom behind social distancing and even the promise of untested remedies.
2 years old, 2.5 years old, a child, a beautiful child, went to have the vaccine and came back and a week later got a tremendous fever, got very, very sick, now is autistic.
This man is largely to blame. And this guy, even though he was first in line to receive the vaccine, because of course, anti-maskers even shut down Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, which was serving as a vaccination site, because they are knees deep in the conspiracy theories. Many have died, and unfortunately, because of many of these people's actions, who knows when the end will be in sight.
They've cloaked themselves in this armor of convenient falsehoods.
Here's the thing. What some of these anti-maskers are starting to find out is that their so-called freedom ends when it puts others at risk. You're starting to see more instances of violence against those clowns from people who just aren't having it.
New video of a fight aboard a Valley flight. An Allegiant passenger refusing to wear his mask, leading to this scuffle. That passenger eventually escorted off the plane.
It was a 30-second up-close encounter with a man refusing to wear a full face mask on an Allegiant flight from Mesa Gateway to Utah.
All right, everyone's asking me what happened on the plane.
And now the woman who took the video explaining what you don't see. Riley Lansford says a flight attendant came to ask the guy sitting behind her to put a mask on.
He has a face shield on, and so he didn't want to wear an additional mask. And she's like, and so he's like, I don't have to wear one. Like, you know, he was not having it.
The man now identified by Mesa police as 52-year-old Rio James Honecker.
And he's just being really rude and like condescending. And he's like, oh, you want to play these games? Like all this stuff.
According to Allegiant's policy, face shields may be worn in addition to a face covering, but not as an alternative.
They made it clear. 100%.
Eventually, a second passenger sitting next to her turns around and starts arguing with Honecker before it turns violent.
Then I just hear and see like one swing of an arm. At first he's kind of choking or, you know, has a hold of the guy's neck. And then you see him pulling his hair and just like hitting him in the back.
The fight was broken up, and Lansford says it was a very up-close and personal first-hand account.
It kind of sucked. The flight attendants were like, oh, you get a glimpse into what we deal with.
Allegiant sending a statement saying that all customers must wear a face mask. Meantime, Mesa police saying an off-duty officer escorted Honecker off the plane. I'm told he's been cited for disorderly conduct.
All of this is taking place on the heels of our kids going back to school this week. Several states already have some sort of mask mandate in place, but quite a few don't. The thought was that people would exercise some sort of common sense and the virus would be under control. With the daily increase of COVID-19 cases and deaths, that simply has not been the case. As a matter of fact, I got a message from a friend of mine in Germany that basically says that America is the world's ass clown when it comes to handling COVID. To that end, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has announced an executive order mandating that all school districts must wear masks.
So that brings us to schools. As you know, kids under 12 don't have the opportunity to get vaccinated. And what we are seeing is COVID already impacting our schools across the Commonwealth. We gave a very clear recommendation that every school in Kentucky mandate masking for everybody in the building. Really simple, really clear, and 100% scientifically backed from the very top of the CDC to every local health department. And we didn't see all of our school districts grab a hold of that, but I'll talk in a minute. We have seen a bunch of them, and we've seen a lot of local leadership. But generally, what we have seen is already an impact that shows if we don't do this right, vaccinations plus masks, we will not have the in-person learning we also desperately want and that we need. And let's get a very specific example. And I appreciate this superintendent at least coming forward and being clear about what had happened. This school system has been in class, no masks or masks optional, encouraged, recommended, not required for 3 days. 95 positive students, 700 staff and students quarantined, 3 days. We cannot keep our kids in school if we are unwilling to put on a mask. I do want to say that there are over 48 school districts that are already requiring it. We're going to hear from Frankfort Independent, first school system, I think, that came out and said very clearly they were going to do it. JCPS, Fayette County Public Schools, Dawson Springs Independent, school system that produced my dad. I know it probably wasn't popular there, stepping up and doing the right thing. Letcher County, recently Bullitt County, and all over Kentucky. Doesn't even have a geography. This is courage. And this is leadership about doing what's right. But we are to the point where we cannot allow our kids to go into these buildings unprotected, unvaccinated, and face this Delta variant. We have already seen through what we have shown you that our kids will not stay in school. They will not get in-person learning. We will have massive quarantines. We'll have parents that can't go to work because 700 kids or staff in one county are going to have to be home and on distance learning. So I'm going to have the courage to do what I know is right, to protect our children. And I've always told people that I'd treat every Kentucky child like they're mine and treat every family like mine. So today I'm signing an executive order that requires that all individuals, all teachers, staff, students, and visitors in K through 12 schools and childcare and pre-K wear a mask.
And of course, our feckless excuse for an attorney general here in Louisville, Daniel Cameron, is already flapping his gums in an effort to stop it. Meanwhile, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul has been suspended from YouTube for continuing to pass off false information. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wanting to ban any sort of mask mandate.
In his speech here at the Two Meatballs in the Kitchen restaurant, Governor DeSantis made it clear he wants parents to make the decision whether or not their kid wears a mask in the classroom. But doctors are warning that could be a dangerous decision. The room at the Two Meatballs in the Kitchen restaurant was filled with applause as Governor Ron DeSantis made the announcement.
I'll be signing an executive order which directs the Florida Department of Education and Department of Health to issue emergency rules protecting the rights of parents to make this decision about wearing masks for their children.
But while some teachers and parents might support the move, the Centers for Disease Control and the American Academy of Pediatrics do not.
Kids at less than 12 years of age cannot even get vaccinated. And so I think using of masks is one of several things one needs to do to mitigate any risks.
Dr. Mobeen Rathor at the University of Florida says those steps are even more important right now, given that Florida is seeing COVID-19 spreading faster than anywhere else in the country. According to the CDC, Florida had more than 100,000 new cases in just the past week and a statewide positivity rate of more than 15%. But DeSantis says requiring masks in schools wouldn't significantly change that.
Many of these kids are already immune through prior infection. They're at virtually zero risk of significant illness.
That's a statement Dr. Mobeen did not agree with.
We have had more kids in the hospital in the last couple of days than we have ever had throughout the pandemic. So that's telling us something. Kids are at risk.
But that's a risk DeSantis says parents should make the call on, not the state of Florida.
We will protect the right of our kids to attend school in person.
And Governor DeSantis did not give a timeline for when he'll be issuing that executive order.
The state of Florida is pretty much ground zero for the coronavirus, having the largest one-week increase in COVID-19 cases in the country, more than at any other time during the pandemic. Some Floridians are having a come-to-Jesus moment after getting infected.
I didn't wear a mask.
This is Chuck Stacy of Florida. Chuck thought COVID-19 was a hoax until he got infected.
I should have. I didn't. I believe this was just a flu. That it was all going to go away. That it was political. I didn't think a mask would help.
Stacy once posted online that masks were a continued overreaction to the pandemic.
If wearing a mask can reduce your chances of getting this, even by 5%, just wear a mask. Do it for your children, for your loved ones. Do it for yourself.
After critics said that he got what he deserved, Stacy said that he only wore a face shield because of his claustrophobia.
I listened to the wrong people say the wrong things. I was wrong. Can't be more wrong.
Florida has never issued a statewide mask mandate, and the numbers continue to climb. The number of daily cases peak at the beginning of the year. About 1 in 16 Floridians has tested positive for COVID-19.
Just a small update. Breathing is better. I'm down to this instead of the high flow. It's not just masks. It's masks. It's social distancing. It's cleaning your hands. It's avoiding contact unless you absolutely have to. In Florida, people are acting like there's nothing wrong. I really pray that everybody can take the politics out of it. I didn't. I was a jackass. It just got politicized. It should have never been politicized.
Chuck Stacy is among a growing number of right-wingers that have changed their tune. Senator Lindsey Graham is urging people to get vaccinated, but only after he was diagnosed with the coronavirus. Yet, you still have those that deny the science and are actively putting our kids at risk.
A group of anti-mask protesters, I feel like we're being super generous to them by calling them protesters, gathered on the sidewalk outside of Hawthorne Elementary School in Beverly Hills to harass children and teachers and parents who are wearing masks during a pandemic. A pandemic dealing with a contagious virus where masks can actually protect people's lives. But these anti-maskers think that it's a huge conspiracy.
I'm positive you hate that mask. Wonderful afternoon. And it smells bad.
Let's be honest, no one likes the mask, so I don't know what it is.
You guys think COVID is a scam. No, it's
understand.
COVID is a lie.
You're right. Our rights come from God.
Ask parents to file a lawsuit against teachers, principal, and school districts because according to our Constitution, only a person who has a medical license can practice medicine. And mask is a medical device.
If you didn't catch it, she's saying that our Constitution says that you have to be a medical professional to wear a medical device, and a mask is a medical device, so it's unconstitutional.
Oh, that's what our Constitution says? I didn't know. I'm learning something new.
None of that is remotely true. Totally made up, okay? So, there's nothing about medical devices or medical professionals in the United States Constitution. Nothing at all.
My favorite part was where she's like, and then it smells bad. It smells bad. Brush your teeth. Mouthwash. Deal with it. If you don't want to wear masks, fine. Just stay away from people. But more importantly, and this is in multiple contexts, not just in regard to COVID, just leave people alone. I don't get people who go out of their way to be annoying. Don't talk to me. Don't come up to me, don't talk to me, and certainly do not approach my children. I do not advocate for or condone any type of violence. I'll leave it there.
As someone who survived COVID-19, I can tell you that it's nothing that you ever want to have to deal with. My best friend, God rest his soul, almost lost his wife to the coronavirus. She was in a coma for weeks before she finally pulled through. The stress of the whole ordeal ended up killing him. I have another friend who's fully vaccinated but is dealing with COVID-19 right now. So I have zero tolerance for anyone who can get the vaccine but simply won't. There are people with immune-compromised systems that can't take it, and I get it, but they're taking precautions to be safe. As confrontations with these Covidiots are increasing, and as I said before, in some cases, leading to violence, anyone that can take the vaccine but won't, you're taking your life and mine into your own hands. However, there are a few tips on how to deal with an anti-masker.
Most of us know that wearing a face mask will help stop the spread of the virus. Backed by idiot-level science and painfully obvious physics, we know that COVID-19 is spread primarily through droplets, and those droplets usually come from someone's mouth or nose. And putting something between those face holes and other people's face holes will prevent those people from being showered in death cooties. So, with it embarrassingly obvious as to why we need to wear masks for a bit, how do you deal with people who aren't wearing them? Those people who may or may not have an actual excuse for not wearing a mask, but more than likely do not. How do you deal with anti-maskers? First off, don't worry. Take a deep breath right through your mask, because you can easily do that. Here are some great tips on how to deal with anti-maskers. 1. Don't yell at them. People are already on edge, and one of the only things worse than a deadly virus is a grocery store parking lot. No one wants to be in that parking lot. Two idiots fighting in a grocery store parking lot will only make the grocery store parking lot even worse, and then we all suffer. 2. Avoid them like the plague, because they may have the plague. Make an effort to avoid any space within 2 meters of them. 3. Mock them from a safe distance. I'm not talking about posting pictures or videos. There's no need for that. We all know what an idiot looks like. Simply wait until they're safely out of earshot and then mercilessly rip apart their bizarro world theory that face masks are just the start of a global plan to get us all to wear burqas by 2025 so Big Burqa can finally cash in. 4. Get on with it. Wearing a face mask is currently our best ticket out of this hellscape. So wear yours with confidence when required and needed. Wearing a mask may have used to mean that the wearer was fearful and concerned only with their own well-being. But now we know that people who wear face masks are courageous, kind, doing their part for the greater good, and of basic intelligence.
The bottom line is, at the end of the day, we all just want to be safe. But when you put children at risk, you're going down a path that can be worse than getting the coronavirus itself. You really don't want that smoke. If you haven't been vaccinated yet, quit being selfish. Get the vaccine. It's not about you, and it's not about your so-called freedoms. Just like Chuck Stacy, you're going to continue to listen to the wrong voices, and those voices are going to get you killed. And the sad thing about it is that they don't give a damn about you. You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not reflective of any business entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you have any comments or want more information on how to be a sponsor, log on to our website at markgunmedia.com or call us at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Thank you for listening.
Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.